morning, Tuesday morning, terrific Tuesday. And this is another edition of Coffee with Todd. Welcome, 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 welcome. Always fun to have you guys online, and we're excited particularly about today's interview. We have our divisional president of mental coaching, Bourman, with us, and we got a guy that has locked on to how to lead and how to use high trust as a leader in a company. And his name is Philip Strange. He is the senior vice president of mortgage production for First State Bank, and basically is having some record years, it looks like, Philip. And so it's good to have you here. Thanks for joining today.
Thanks, Todd. It's an honor.
Yeah, it's really great. It's been fun to watch what's happened since you got into coaching. Fun to see what's happened with your LOs and whatnot. Tell us a little bit of your story, just a little bit of your background and your story, and then we'll get into some of the cool things that we want to talk about.
Okay. And then, so my background, I got an accounting degree and got my CPA, and hated that world, and fell into the mortgage business. And for the last 22 years, I've started 4 mortgage companies for different banks, smaller banks, over the last 22 years from ground zero. So yeah, this is my 4th operation.
So first of all, I like the idea that you hated being a CPA, because my father graduated from Stanford, and he became a CPA. And when he was 29 years old, he decided that he hated accounting. So he's trained, he's got a Stanford degree, and he hated accounting. And my dad decided at the age of 29 that he was going to become a doctor. And because he didn't have enough money to just go do it, and he and my mom had to support this growing family, it took him 10 years to get his medical degree, and he opened his medical business when he was 39 years old. And he had a great life for 26 years being a physician. But funny how it all started with hating accounting.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I want to put out there, you have 6 LOs that are being coached in the producer level. You are at the master level, and it looks like 2018 you guys closed 431 loans. Last year you closed 502 loans. And this year, through it looks like May, you guys are at 340 loans already. What motivated you to get engaged in the high trust mentality and the high trust society? You have a great intro story. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, I went to a Texas Mortgage Bankers Association meetings, and they had a panel there of high producers. And as I listened to the high producers, they had asked the guys, what do you wish you would have done differently in your career? And 4 out of the 5 of the producers said that they wish they would have hired a coach earlier in their career. And so I had reached out to an old friend of mine and one of your clients, Lynn Reed, and had known that he'd use you guys. And I know that he was able to grow his business threefold from where he started. And so he connected me with you guys.
That is awesome. That's awesome. And I remember the first time we were having some discussions, and it was interesting because Hope was coming to me, and we kind of had a unique opportunity because you wanted to kind of create this this coaching culture with your group of LOs and whatnot. And tell us what has happened in the last couple of years as we've gotten to know each other. I know you came to Masterclass this year, and you're leading and you're at the master level. But what are the things that resonate with you that you can talk about from a success standpoint? What have you learned, and what have you guys done that you feel has made such a huge impact to be able to do this amount of volume with such a small group of originators?
Sure. And it's funny, I have my key factors, and I also asked my loan officers kind of what they thought their key factors were before this as well. And so the things for me were, whenever Hope and I would talk, visit, I felt like I was, getting up to date on things that were going on in the industry. I was getting up to date about different vendors and offerings in the industry that we might want to take advantage of, and new investors maybe that we weren't selling to. And so that in itself was a huge value for me and my job, and it worth the cost every month. But Hope since then, she's helped us revamp our CRM, and that's to me the single most thing that's driven our business and working our database better than what we were. Helped us revamp our website, helped us with going further and deeper with our customer surveys. She's a great sounding board for me to talk about different ideas. She gives me different ideas about things we can try to do to try to help keep my staff motivated and how to keep them focused on making the realtor calls. And then one thing I'll definitely commend you guys on is that you guys did a fantastic job of pairing your coaches with my people. Mm-hmm. And because not all of us have the same coach, each of them has different coaches, and you guys have perfectly aligned my group with the right people within your organization.
That's that's a good testimony. So, Hope, from your perspective, what would be your story about Philip, and why has this worked so well? Because you've got an affinity for coaching. It's your gift from God, and it's amazing to watch what happens. But what's your take as Philip's coach on all this?
I'll tell you, Todd. When I first started coaching with Philip, I have to tell you, I was a little intimidated because he's such a numbers guy. He's just such a numbers guy, and he started throwing at me these. I want a 5% increase in profitability. I'm really looking to hit this number, and he tracks his numbers. And as soon as I got in alignment with the numbers, it's almost as if the coaching, and he became very coachable as to how to get there, and how we were going to. So there was a lot of trust on Philip's side, and there was a lot of coaching, and we did mastermind an awful lot. And we would get feedback from his team with regard to things that they felt that they needed, and I was able to communicate with him in that regard. We weren't, we did a disc review, so we kind of talked a little bit about how he could communicate with his operations team a little bit differently to get the results that we were looking for. So it was just all of those incremental things that just kind of came together. And in the beginning, the coaching members, his sales team some of them didn't really engage. So there was a little bit of, in the beginning, I would say that maybe the first 3 or 4 months, they didn't fully engage. And then, boy, when they did, the production started going up, the culture started going up, the sales started going up. They felt better, processing felt better, underwriting felt better. So everything kind of came together in a perfect storm. So it was just, and so it was also that tenacity, and commitment to make it work.
Yeah. So one of the things that's interesting is, and Philip, from a leadership standpoint, if we talk about getting your LOs engaged, and we talk about leadership influence and things like that, what's your recollection of how you got them finally going, the right way in the right direction? Because I think a lot of managers have difficulty influencing their sales team for the best, right? And it sounds like this is kind of gelled in a beautiful way. From a leadership standpoint, can you speak to how did you get everybody engaged and excited about the journey that you guys are now on?
Well, one of the things that we do a lot of and have done a lot of along the way are we do a lot of team building exercises with my group, and they can be anything. They've been very simple, where we've done a very basic personality test, and then we've made fun of each other and about each other's personality, and we've gone through communication styles and ways of handling stress and just different things like that. And we might do that every couple of months, but that's been a really good way that we've gelled together. And I think from y'all's side, where y'all really helped me is just that the gentle, I'll say gentle accountability, because if you guys or me would have come in and tried to micromanage my group, we would have had a mutiny on our hands. And so, yeah.
So coming out of last year, seeing the growth that you guys had and kind of setting your vision for 2020, I guess one of the questions that we want to ask is it's been a good year for the industry, obviously. Where are you in terms of the whole idea of your production goal for 2020 and kind of what's happened so far halfway through the year, and give us some ideas on how you think having a culture around coaching, taking you all the way back to Texas Mortgage Bankers and hearing those guys talk about hiring coaches earlier. What's happened 2020? Describe the year as it relates to what you guys have done and the impact you think coaching's had.
Yeah, I think that the constant reminder of staying in front of our database, the constant reminder from you guys and for myself to our loan officers to constantly stay in front of our referral partners is paying huge dividends. That's a big part of where we are and why our business is so strong this year. I would say that's the big thing from you guys that we've gotten is just to stay in front of that database, work our database, and work our referral partners. And then you get the strategies you guys have given us to do that, like through the scripting and things like that we've benefited from. In fact, Hope's done. Hope you want to tell them some of the fun we've had with scripting and things like that. And
so we said one of the LOs had gone to High Trust Sales Academy last year in May, came back, and Todd, they just fell in love with the High Trust interview. And so I told Philip, I said, why don't we do this? Why don't we have the whole team learn and memorize the High Trust interview? I'll do a team call with all of the LOs in one room and just tell them we don't know who Hope is going to choose, so you all need to know the interview. And it was really great fun. And what we found is, they did amazingly well. The people that I chose, and Philip was I guess pretty surprised and pretty happy that everybody was on the mark and and it was a great call, and they all knew the High Trust interview, both for borrower and for realtor. It was amazing.
Yeah, I think as we have this kind of dance today, guys, and have this conversation, I think the thing I would like to say to anybody who views today's interview is, I really want you to be thinking about the transfer of trust in all communications. And I think, why High Trust Selling was written and why our company is called High Trust is because trust is the absolute superpower in anything you will ever do. It starts with trusting yourself. And that's skills, and that's purpose, and that's training and coaching and having confidence in, what you're going to do, and having faith that when you do it, it's going to work out. And that's a piece of trust. And then it's trusting your relationships. And, in the partner world with real estate agents and builders, it's having a deep, deep trust with them. And it's also in the world of consumer trust with borrowers. There's nothing more important than having trust. And there's obviously varying degrees, right? Low, medium, high, or highest. So I'd like you guys to unpack, how long did it actually take before you and the guys on your team, guys and gals on your team, really started feeling the horsepower of the High Trust interview?
I hate to say it, probably took us a year. We just kept plugging away, sticking with it, kept adopting pieces of it. But to be honest, it took us a solid year before we were fully engaged in that High Trust interview.
Yeah,
and I think it took one of our guys going to the class and bringing that back, and before we really adopted it.
Yeah. I had no idea what the answer would be, but I look at that and I say to everybody who's watching this, if it took you a year to master a skill that would change your entire life and business experience, would it be worth it? And I think the answer is yes. And then if you think about the optics of that, would you spend a year to get so good that you could double or triple the conversion rate of people doing business with you because they trust you at a deeper level? And when I look at your volume going from 400 units and change, yeah, it looks like in just 1 year you added almost $35 million in funded volume with your group between 18 and 19. And that was the year you guys were learning the high trust interview. And if things play out this year, you're already at a 347% year-on-year profit increase. That's monstrous. 347% increase in profit this year compared to last year.
Yeah. Big numbers.
Huge. Absolutely huge. So the message to everybody is you've got to get really, really great at the few things that matter most. And what we know right now in our organization, what we know the industry is thirsty for, is they're thirsty for connection. They're really, really thirsty for a connected experience. A borrower wants a connected experience with a lender. Agents and builders want to be connected. Fellows and leaders and staff have to be connected. And asking questions, high trust interview that are deep questions is the way to go. I just got off a webinar before this with one of my best friends companies, and we were talking about the idea that in the society in which we live right now, with all the Zoom and digital, it's hard to connect. I mean, you can see each other, right? I can look and see Philip, and I can see Hope, and if we were on a Zoom call like I just was, there was like 400 webcams enabled. It was just like, okay, but I still can't connect with you. I've got this technology between me and you, right? Even though I can see you, I can't feel your energy. I can't really ask. I mean, I can ask the questions, but they don't have the impact. So in the current Zoom society in which we all live, you got to really focus on asking deeper, more penetrative questions. And I think that's the key right now, because I believe that he who asks the best questions and listens the most wins, which is what the high trust interview is all about. So, Philip, what would you do? What would you do differently in your career if you could have a do-over, knowing what you know today?
Gosh, I mean, I definitely would have started coaching earlier in my career. I would have gotten myself into some leadership training programs earlier in my career. I've done a couple of those here in the last couple of years. Those have paid dividends as well.
And when you think about your team right now, if you look at maybe look at your top producer in your team, what has that person done besides the interview? 2 or 3 things you can point to that has allowed your number one guy or gal to really scale. It sounds like they're all doing great, but
oh gosh, yeah, and this is a quote from my top producer, and he said that the accountability piece that you guys are providing him with, making his calls on his realtors and his database, and the tracking that you guys provide, and the every 2-week calls that you guys do with him to provide accountability, he thinks those have created a major efficiency for him in the way he spends his time. So for him, that was big. And I mean, he's probably 70% over last year, volume wise.
Volume over last year,
yeah.
So a lot of people don't like accountability. And we know that in the coaching company, accountability is where we really, really start to see lift. Hope, as the divisional president of High Trust Coaching, what do you see when you think about our optics and you think about our dashboard? What really resonates with you on the power the type of accountability that we're doing there, as Philip talks about with his top
You
line.
know, I have to say that it's, I always, as I tell all of our coaching members, there's magic in the metrics. There's magic in the metrics. And the reason why I say that is the accountability piece. And it's not so much that you're accountable to your coach or to high trust coaching. It is that when you're filling out that worksheet at the end of the day and you're addressing how many pre-quals conversations did I have? What is my conversion rate like? How many real referral partners did I talk to? It's only 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Maybe I can call a couple more of my database clients, so that I can tell my coach, that I hit my mark. So that's where the magic is. It's their self accountability and that sense of accomplishment that they are leaving at the end of every single day, that they've hit their mark.
Yeah. And, I think it's safe to say to anybody that's watching this is accountability is the master skill. It really is being vulnerable to having a little bit of guidance, in some cases, a lot of guidance. And it's becoming vulnerable and okay with the idea that you've got to have boundaries on your business to actually reach your potential. And if you don't have accountability, if you don't have a desired end result that accountability brings you something bigger and better than you've ever had, then you will resist it. And like any person who has grown to anything, there's been some level of either personal, professional accountability or some combination of that. What's it meant to you in terms of accountability, Philip, in your own life as a leader and a guy that's at our master level? What's it done for you since you would want to do over? What's it done for you personally as a leader?
The main thing for me is just keeping me on track, towards the goal. And okay, I told Hope I was going to do these 2 things, at our last meeting, and I got a meeting coming up a few more days, and I haven't done either one of them, and actually get them done before we meet again, because I want to keep this thing moving along. So,
it's so funny. I remember years and years ago, I was involved with a guy that was coaching me, and one of the things that I had committed to was, from a health perspective, I had committed to working out a minimum of 3 days a week. And I remember the first Thursday, my calls were on Friday, that I had awakened, and for whatever reason, I hadn't worked out yet. And I had a coaching call 24 hours later. And I said, okay, so today it looks like I've got to work out 3 times. So tomorrow when my coach asks me, did you work out 3 times this week? I can say yes and be honest about it. I remember it was just like, wow. So accountability is the mother lode. Okay, well, as we wrap this up, Philip, as you think about your team, you think about where you want to take this, you think about kind of the future. What do you see 2021 looking like if you had a little bit of a crystal ball, knowing that you guys have been on track with coaching now for going on 2 years?
I don't see us taking a step backwards. Even though we're going to lose a lot of the refinance business next year, I still think we're going to be strong. Our bank's entered a couple new markets, which always helps. But from a coaching aspect, it's just being disciplined and doing the things that you guys ask us to do every day, and making our calls, staying in front of our database, time blocking. It's just 101, Todd Duncan 101 every day. So
it's the disciplines for success. They never change, right? They never change. Well, I appreciate you spending time with us today, Philip, and Hope. Thank you for your leadership at High Trust. And guys and gals that are out there, the world continues to change. The industry looks like it's going to be healthy from a low rate perspective throughout the end of the year, and we're going to continue to watch business really kind of zoom along here. But we do know that markets change, and we do know, depending on the economic factors that are all, that are being looked at every single day in the world and in our country, that rates go up, rates go down, housing prices go up, housing prices go down. We can't control anything but what we do in the markets we're in. And that's why we're proud of what high trust coaching does. It doesn't matter what market you're in, what it allows you to do in whatever market you find yourself, high rates, low rates, consumer confidence, high consumer, it allows you to win. And we all need someone to help us be our best version of ourselves. If that were not true, there would be no seminar business, there would be no training business, there would be no coaching business. We all need it. I've got 2 coaches, and we all need coaching. So, Curtis, thank you so much for joining. We look forward to seeing more of you, and kind of excited about you being on track for Elite next year. And it was a joy to have a combo with you this morning. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.
Thanks for everything. And we'll see you guys Thursday for another edition of Coffee with Todd. And tomorrow, one of our coaches will be live. Who's live tomorrow?
So Cindy Tomczak and myself are going to be live. We've got a new format for High Trust Coaching Live. And so it's going to be myself and Cindy Tomczak. Super excited.
That's going to be great. All right, guys, have a fantastic Tuesday. And thanks again, Philip. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Todd.
See you guys.